So day 2 of the process. I've got all kinds of ingredients we're going to use, but I thought I'd first start by showing you guys how I cut a knife, or with a knife, and how I cut up an onion and how I cut up a pepper. Lots of people have ways they do these peppers, but I have a way I've been doing it for a long time that I really enjoy. So I'm going to show you how to do that first. I like to put red pepper on my pizza. A lot of people like green pepper and onion. Can't go wrong with green pepper, onion, and sausage. Good combination, winning combination, use it. However, at the Meyer house, nobody likes green pepper except this guy. So I tend not to use green pepper, I use red pepper. It's a little sweeter. However, when you're going to use a pepper and an onion on your pizza and it's grilled, it doesn't take very long to grill it. So it's going to take you probably 8 to 10 minutes to do a good pizza. It's not a lot of time for these peppers to really cook. So what we like to do is we sweat them first. It means we let a lot of the water out of this so that it doesn't put water on top of your pizza and it just pools. Right? So what we're going to do first is cut these, dice them, and then we're going to put them in a frying pan, a non-stick frying pan on the stove, and we're going to just kind of let them get to that point where they're getting almost wrinkled out and the water's getting released. We're not going to saute them, right? So we're not putting butter on them or anything else. We're just going to dry them out a little bit so they don't leak water all over our pizza. So here we go. We're going to chop this pepper up. First thing you know, this one's got 4 pieces instead of 3, okay? 4 little humps, if you will. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4. These are really good for stuffed peppers because they stand up nicely like that. The ones that only have 3 bumps on the bottom, you usually got to cut the bottom a little bit to make them stand up well, okay? This is a good one for stuffed peppers, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our knife, okay? This is a Santoku knife. This has got a, I don't know if this is a 9-inch one or 7-inch one. These are 7-inch one, okay? One of my favorite knives to use. It's got these little indents in here that are supposed to help things from sticking to it. It's always important to have a sharp knife. This one I sharpen pretty regularly, at least once a week. A lot of good chefs will sharpen theirs every time that they cut with them. So they'll sharpen it before they use it, then they'll wash it and they'll resharpen it. They wash these by hand, by the way. I'm not super fancy that way, I just make sure it's sharp. A sharp knife is a safe knife. Also, when you're handling a knife, you want to make sure that if you're ever handing a knife to someone that you don't hand it to them like blade first, right? Because if you were to walk at them, actually trip them, ooh, that'd be bad news, right? So when you're handling a knife, you want to make sure that you keep the blade down. Okay, and if you're handing a knife to someone, it's actually best to hold on to it this way and then hand it like this, right? So my fingers are clear of the blade and now they can grab the handle of it too, okay? So I've got my knife ready to go. Okay, I'm going to look at the top of this thing. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit away from the center of the pepper here because we don't want to get any of the seeds. The seeds don't taste good, okay? If you're doing jalapenos, the seeds actually can bring the heat, but in a red bell pepper, they don't taste good. Get them out of the way. So start cutting this one inward. I've actually already cut this one, okay? But I cut down like that, okay? Got on the board like so, and you look inside. What you're seeing inside there, you've got the seeds. We don't want to eat those, and also all this white membrane has no flavor to it. We don't want to use that either. So my next cut on the knife is actually going to cut, so I'm cutting along this part right here on the outside edge of the pepper, so I'm not getting any of that inside flesh there. All right, so I cut that out. If you happen to get a little bit, like this is actually pretty good, but if you happen to get a little bit, hold it so your finger's not in the way. You don't want to cut your finger, but you can actually use your knife, and if it's sharp enough, you can get underneath it like this, and you can cut some of that away. All right, so now we have 2 of those. We're going to keep going. So right where that flesh is, we want to cut along the edge so that we don't get any of that. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Keep going until I get it all cleared away. And so this is kind of still together, right? It's kind of twisty. See how that still works? All right, we don't want any of that stuff that's in there. All right, so we're going to get rid of all that, but I do want this bottom piece, because this bottom piece is actually still really good. And since we're dicing it, we're going to dice that up anyway. So we're going to take the bottom piece off. Okay, that's still good. Okay, I don't want any of that, but sometimes when you cut along the outside edge, there's still some extra stuff that's good right here, right? And so we want to use this stuff that's good out here. So if you want to, you can actually get underneath that like so from the bottom part and get a little bit extra. That's another good way to get some of that stuff. But now most of the stuff that's left over is done. Okay, so we're done with that part, and now we're going to focus on these pieces. So you can see on this one that we didn't get all of the white stuff out of the way. So I'm going to quick just get rid of some of that. Okay, and this stuff here. Okay, we don't want that. We also don't want any seeds. And now that we've got this all set up, what I like to do is take the piece like this. Again, keep my fingers back. Sometimes I curl them under even, depending how much hold you need to have on things. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our knife and we're going to slice this just like this. And I like to slice mine so each one's about 1/4 inch. Okay, and you just slice vertically along that piece. Be careful not to get your fingers, okay? And this is a pretty good amount just to handle. And then so I turn them all, so I kind of butt them up against my knife like so, and then we're just dicing these, right? So we're just going to put these into small pieces. You can dice them as big or as small as you want to. Some of the time chefs get super fancy. I'll show you one of the super fancy ways that sometimes people like to do this. So once you have the 3 like so, okay, put them in order, and then what you can do is you can take your knife and put it on the cutting board like so, and take the top of your hand and put it on top, and you rock your knife, right? And you can rock your knife like this, and then actually can dice things up pretty small too, okay? And you can do that, and you get all kinds of different sizes. What I usually find when I do that, though, is I get some that are too small and some that are too big. So I like to be a little bit more mathematical with this, right? Because I'm a math teacher too. And I like to judge my sizes a little bit better than that, right? So I'm going to take a few minutes just here to finish doing this, and then we'll show you how to do an onion as well. Now the onion. So the onion has layers, right? Because ogres have layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. We're going to get into this onion and we're going to dice it as well. Now there's a couple things. The way onions grow is they grow under the ground as a bulb, and so they have this root system. Well, we don't want to eat that root system. That's going to taste really bad. We don't want any of the roots. The roots can taste like dirt sometimes too. Right in the top of it, this is where the onion grass would grow off the top, right? And that would be really long grass that comes off of this. And we don't want that either, right? This isn't going to taste very good, and we don't want the skin off the onion, okay? So we're going to get all that off. Now there's a couple ways to do that. You know, you could try holding it up here like this and trying to cut the bottom here, but honestly, like, that can be hard to do. See how this onion is mostly squished flat? I'm just going to leave it like this for a minute. Take my knife. I'm going to cut right down the center. Right? Now you've got two flat spaces that stay nice on the top of the cutting board like this. Right? And now we're going to get rid of that little piece on the end that we didn't want. Okay, that little root part. Right? That's gone. Okay? I'm going to turn it on the other side and cut off that part that had the grass on it. Right? That part's gone. And now with it being like this, it's really easy now to get to the outer layer, and you can peel that outer layer off that you're not going to eat. Okay? And if you want to peel just that layer off, go for it. Some people like to take the whole outer piece off, that whole outer layer off, just to make sure they don't get any of that onion in there. Okay, they need that skin on there. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I don't have any of the real tough skin on the outside. So this particular onion is being a little bit stubborn with us, but we're going to take that outer layer off, and we're just not going to eat that part. No big deal. Okay, that's the part that had the skin attached. All right, now we got this thing halved. You'll notice that I've still got a little bit of the part where the grass came in. All right, so I'm going to make sure I deal with that too. I'm going to take a little bit more off that end. Okay, that's gone. Now, cutting an onion. Okay, onions already have layers, so they're naturally already kind of sliced, if you will, but they're sliced like a sphere as they grow out. Each layer grows out, right? And so that part's going to be useful. We're going to use that to our advantage. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut this way in parallel lines. All right, so here we go. Now, when I hold the onion to cut it parallel, I actually take both my hands and put it around like this, and I slide my knife underneath that. Right? Not going to cut my fingers. Don't want to cut my fingers. So keep them out of the way. I'm going to hold this together. So as I make my cuts, I'm actually holding my onion together so I can keep it together. But I'm going to cut these down, each about 1/4 inch or so, and I'm held it together. So it stays just like that, nice and easy. Now what we're going to do is cut perpendicular to that. Okay? And as we do that, you're going to start see these things kind of fall apart. And they'll fall apart on their own layers of their onion. Okay? So here we go. We're going to just start dicing on the side. And you see it start kind of falling apart on its own. Okay, being careful with this last cut. So check it out. Here's one of the sides here. We cut it in two directions, but then also all along those layers, it's just ready to fall apart. And what you're going to find is when you start sweating these onions to get some of the water out, all of these are just going to fall apart really nicely, and you've got yourself a nice little diced onion. Pretty convenient, okay? Now, at the Meyer house, we don't eat a lot of onion. I like it, my kids like it okay, but my wife does not like it. So I actually save the other part of this onion for something else. Generally speaking, after you've cut an onion, you've released some of the gases that are in it that make you want to tear up. It's to protect the onion, right? You want to kind of make sure that those aren't just continually leaking out of this, all right? So you want to seal this back up. So put a piece of plastic wrap over top of this, put it in a sealed Ziploc container, stick it in the fridge. Not for long though, okay? Use this within a day or two, all right? If you don't use it in a day or two, you're going to find that the onion starts to get really soft and wilty in the fridge, and it starts drying out and getting soft, and then it doesn't taste very good anymore, okay? So make sure you use it up soon, but that's it. That's it for cutting onion. All right, here we go. We got a little frying pan here on our stove. I have an electric stove, so I know this part isn't open flames, but you could do the same thing over an open flame burner too, no big deal. Grab yourself your frying pan, nothing in it, no oil, nothing else. You just got a plain old frying pan, you're getting yourself warm, getting it warmed up a little bit. They are gonna stick a little bit, that's okay. I'm using metal on metal, you can use wood on metal, that's not a problem. What you're gonna find though at the end is we'll deglaze the pan. So once we have these things sweated a little bit, we'll deglaze it. So here are the peppers we diced earlier. I'm gonna throw the peppers right into this pan and I'm gonna let that go. I got it on medium heat. I only just turned it on, so it's gonna take a couple minutes to do that. All right, so we'll check back in on this in a couple minutes. Don't walk away though, right? You don't want these to get stuck to the bottom, but it's gonna take a couple minutes for these to start sizzling and sweating out. All right, so at the same time I was sweating the red peppers here, I was sweating a batch of onions and actually mixed a couple of the red peppers up with the onions. But you can see how the onions now are starting to get a little bit blackened on the bottom, but I haven't really lost a lot of the whiteness. If you were to saute an onion with some butter or some oil, what happens is the onions become more and more translucent as they cook. All right, we don't really want that. We want the taste of onions to show up in our pizza. We just don't want all the water of the onion to really be in our pizza. So I think these are about ready. So we're gonna take these guys off. So I'm going to put these in a bowl. Now I talked about deglazing a pan. So all that stuff that's stuck on there right now, we don't want that to be on there. That's going to be hard to scrub away. So while this is hot, see it's still coming off my hot stove over here. While it's hot, what we're going to do is splash a little bit of water in this. If you had oil in it, don't do it, okay? That will cause some bad things to happen, right? But we're going to take this hot pan over here, right over to the faucet. Can you see it okay? A little splash of water, you saw it steam come off, and now you can see this bubbling, and it's got that brown on it. That brown is actually the releasing of that caramelization on the onion, or that black that we had from the bottom of the pan, okay? I'm also using my spatula to kind of free up any of that little stuff. You would do the same thing if you were making a gravy or a roux. We'd actually want to deglaze the pan a little bit, pull up some of that stuff that you're cooked in it. Usually it's when you sear a piece of meat in it, and then all the things that come off of it are things you want that are going to taste good in your roux or in your sauce. But since we're just going to care about washing this pan later, that's all we want to do. So we're going to turn that off. In the meantime, let's take a look at our peppers. Our peppers are now approaching the same spot. See, I'm starting to get a couple of dark spots in the peppers. You can tell at the bottom of the pan, all right, all of that water and some of the sugar has now caramelized the bottom of the pan. We've done a good job of sweating these out. Same thing. Remove that from the heat into a bowl. So you got it for later. Okay, and we want to get that de-caramelized, or to get that off the bottom. So here we go, deglaze. Plus it's super fun. It looks super scary, but you're not hurting anything. Just be careful to contain it all. And look at that. All that stuff that was just baked down in the pan, that's the glazing that came off, okay? So we want that. That's good. Now it's good and it'll be good to clean. And just make sure you clean this up, right? Don't make your mom and dad do this. This is your mess. You clean it up when you're done. All right, done there. All right, guys, got my helper Malachi here helping us out. We're going to show you how to make some pizza sauce, some homemade pizza sauce that you can use on your grilled pizzas. All right, so first up, I went to Aldi and I get this can of just crushed tomatoes, right? So it's the big can of crushed tomatoes. Check it out, good to go, 28 ouncer, right? Go ahead and dump that in there, Malachi. All right, next up, to enhance the tomato flavor, we actually had a little tomato paste. And the tomato paste also is going to make it a little bit thicker. So we had a can of tomato paste, also purchased from Aldi. Okay, like I said, keep it cheap and simple ingredients, and you're apt to do it more often, right? If it's so totally fancy you can't pull it off when you're in college, not any fun, right? Okay, now the next up is seasoning. Seasoning your pizza sauce is really like by taste. If you were truly Italian, at this point you'd mix these two together and call it good. But you would also probably use a higher quality can of tomato as well. So you'd probably use some beautiful sun-ripened tomatoes from Italy, right? Well, we don't have that luxury, so we're gonna flavor ours just a little bit. Now, can I go ahead and mix that up, will you please? Take your spoon and mix it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of our garlic salt, okay? You need a pinch of salt anyway, and we wanna put garlic flavoring in this, so we're just gonna do garlic salt.
All right, so we put a few pinches of that in there. Again, this is to taste. So a lot of this is gonna be more about putting in the flavors and less about measuring. All right, next up I got some garlic powder. Gotta make it taste a little more like garlic. That comes a little faster, be careful with that, okay? Garlic powder. Then, what I like to do is I put dried oregano leaves in mine. All right, now you could also use a little bit of Italian seasoning if you prefer, but I like a little bit of dried oregano seasoning in mine. Dried oregano leaves, okay? And then we put a little bit of blackened pepper in there. How you do the honors, if you crank that out a little bit. Just a couple little pinches of that. Cool. Then one more thing, this is my secret ingredient. I put Parmesan cheese. Yep, that's right, dried grated Parmesan cheese. That's the last ingredient I put in here. And you actually put a fairly good amount. This is, I would probably say, 2 tablespoons worth. But again, I'm a dumper, so I'm gonna dump a little bit in like this. We're gonna mix that around. And then we'll taste it and see if we want to add anything else. But generally speaking, that's about it. A little salt, a little garlic salt, some garlic powder, some dried oregano, a little scratch of black pepper, and we're good to go. Stir this around. You let it sit a little bit. You know, we let ours sit 10, 15, 20 minutes, but honestly, let it sit a good hour, let all those flavors mix together. You'll be happy with it. We'll use it in just a few minutes. All right, here we are ready to attack that dough that we created, right? So here we are, this is our dough. Look at that, it's raised quite a bit, or risen quite a bit, right? Sometimes when I do this, it comes all the way up out of the bowl, okay? So this one, maybe the yeast was a little bit less active than usual, or maybe we mixed a little too much. No big deal, it's still gonna taste great, okay? So I'm gonna plop it out on top of our parchment paper here. So I buy this stuff called parchment paper. I get mine cheap, Meijer, Aldi, that kind of stuff, right? But parchment paper is good to about 500 degrees. After 500 degrees, this stuff can burn, so be careful. It can be used in the grill, but if your grill gets too hot, which our grill's getting pretty hot today, that could burn. So sometimes what I like to use instead is a piece of aluminum foil, or both. So I have here is a piece of heavy-duty aluminum foil. Notice I got a nice little square, or a little rectangle there, okay? That's all the bigger we're gonna make our little personal pans today. Okay, so I would recommend making them smaller. That way you can do more of them and you could do a little bit more creativity, okay? So I got my nice little square here. I got another little piece of parchment paper about this big that kind of fits over top of it. So my parchment paper can go right on top of my aluminum foil. The aluminum foil is gonna help so that the dough doesn't go down through the grate, and it's gonna stop the parchment paper from burning up when it hits the grill, okay? Because our grill is gonna be somewhere between 500 and 600 degrees. So I have that on the side. But what I have now is I gotta turn this out, okay? I'm gonna take my dough right out, and because it was greased or oiled on the sides, no problem there. Okay, and so I've got a lot of dough here. Well, this is way more than one pizza, okay? I would predict this is somewhere between 8 and 12 pieces. All right, you can make them as small or as big as you want to, but you don't want them too thick or they don't cook very well. You'll have burned bottoms and you'll have doughy insides. So we're gonna make them fairly thin. So I'm gonna take this right here and take my nice little dough cutter, okay, my little dough knife, I got for a Christmas present, okay? And I'm gonna use this to kind of separate the dough out a little bit. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just split this thing right down the middle, even halves. Okay, what I love with parchment paper is it doesn't stick to parchment paper very much either. Okay, and then we're gonna take this side of it, split that in half, okay? And then we're gonna keep going, okay? Because these are still too big, all right? So I'm gonna take this and split that in about what half would be. And I would go even further. I think we could maybe even get close to 16 out of this if we wanted to get that far. However, we're gonna take this and see how it goes, all right? So this is where the 8 would be. So I'm gonna take some of this extra dough and just kind of put it off to the side for now. We're gonna take this piece and we're gonna start spreading this out, right? And usually it helps if you kind of start with a ball and you kind of get this in your hands, you stretch it out. Remember, clean hands, right? My hands were just recently washed, okay, guys? If you don't like touching it, like my wife doesn't like touching the dough like this either. It's hard on her hands, so she puts gloves on, okay? But take your dough, kind of make it into a ball first, and then we're gonna do it to roll this out is you press from the center out, okay? We're gonna start here in the center and we're gonna work our way out, kind of rolling our way out. And the cool thing about pizzas like this is, guys, they don't have to be perfect. Like, you know, we talk a lot about radius of a circle and making a circular pie. Don't even worry about that. This is more about just having a good time, making the pizza look good, and going from there. Okay, so what you're trying to do is get some uniformity, but leaving a crust still. And the reason you put a crust on it is so that your sauce doesn't roll off, okay? So you want to leave a crust, but you want to make sure you're thinning it out pretty evenly. So double check that, kind of feel it around a little bit. If you rip a hole in it by accident, no big deal, pinch it back together. It's not going to be a big deal. That happens all the time, okay? That is a pretty good personal pan ready to go, all right? Now, here's a couple things you could try. You could try using a fork right now, and you could fork the inside of this, not the crust so much, and you could kind of fork it with some dimples in it. And what these are gonna do is let the air release so you don't have really big pockets in your dough. But if you're that person who loves the raised dough pocket and you like an airy dough, don't do this, right? Leave this part out, and then you'll have all those air pockets come up as you're cooking this, right? Right now though, I don't want too many air pockets. I want mine to be kind of a uniform crust, so I forked mine a little bit there, ready to go. So this is it, this is my dough, okay? Now, if I'm cooking this inside, I sometimes like to par bake this. And so I'll put it in the oven, my oven's at 500 degrees, and I'll put this in the oven for like 5 to 7 minutes. Not enough to cook it all the way, right? But enough to get it so it's hardened. But since we're using a nice hot grill and it's gonna happen super fast, we're not gonna par bake this, right? But it's also dough, right? So if I just put this directly on the grate, it would seep through. That's not good. That's why I gotta have it on this piece of aluminum foil with my parchment paper ready to go. But now I'm ready to top this. You can get creative as you want to, but I'm gonna say right now, you gotta have your sauce, all right? So I like to red sauce mine. You can try different things. Try barbecue sauce, do a barbecue chicken pizza. Try a kind of maybe crema sauce, like a Mexican crema sauce, and then use some jalapenos and put some taco meat on there, some shredded steak, if you will. Kind of do it that way. You can try a green sauce, like a pesto sauce. That would be delicious. My wife loves pesto and putting spinach and tomatoes and mozzarella cheese on hers, okay? Get creative at this point. The world's your oyster. If you don't like sauce, put a little bit of garlic and butter on there, okay? Garlic, butter, and cheese on the top. And then you've got like cheesy breadsticks, and they're absolutely amazing that way, okay? But take your sauce, take it all about that far, and you're good to go. And now you're ready to top, right? You saw us make toppings earlier. Go ahead and top this however you like to. Hint, one of the things that I like to do, I like to take a little bit of these real bacon pieces, okay? And I put it on underneath my cheese, okay? I think that flavors the sauce just right. And then when whatever you're putting on the top, you get a little bit extra that smoky bacon flavor. Second thing I want to show you, okay? I've got that Parmesan cheese still floating around. Take your Parmesan cheese, okay? Dump a little bit into a bowl here. Put a little bit of garlic powder or garlic salt. Garlic salt will make your crust taste a little salty. Garlic powder, you just get a little bit of garlic on there. Mix those two together, okay? And then when you're about ready to cook this thing, you got everything on top, take a little bit of your olive oil spray you had earlier, spray your crust. So usually I wait till the end to do this, but I'm gonna show you now. Take this and then you put this on your crust. This is a Parmesan garlic and adds a little flavor to the crust that I think you'll really enjoy. Okay, you also can try other things too. Put some Cajun seasoning on there, like Hungry Howie's does. Put some hot peppers on there if you want to. Crush red hot peppers, make it nice and hot. That's up to you, okay? But go to town on this thing now. Take your favorite cheese. We like to shred our own cheese. It melts a little bit better. So we've just got some block cheese, and sometimes we use fresh mozzarella too. In fact, this one's a little bit of a mix of both. In the bottom, you'll see we have some fresh mozzarella in here too. Fresh mozzarella tastes lovely. It doesn't melt quite the same way as the block will, but if you mix the two together, you get a little bit of each. It's really kind of a tasty treat, okay? So do it up, and we'll meet you at the grill here in a second. All right, guys, we got two of them done here. This is the pizza that I prepared, ready to go, and this is the pizza for my daughter. She likes just cheese, right? Kind of boring, but it works. It tastes good. All right, my way of transportation, I can do a cookie sheet out here to the grill, okay? So I've got things on top of the cookie sheet. I don't have a pizza peel. This is fancy enough for me. All right, now when you open your grill, our grill is currently at between 500 and 600 degrees. If it's too hot, you can turn it down a little bit. I like to have it a little hot when I'm starting and then bring it down a little bit as I go if I need to. All right, so I'm gonna pop it open and I'm gonna space these out a little bit. Okay, I got 4 coming on here. There's 2, close it, you wanna keep as much heat as you can. We'll come back in about 10 minutes or so, or a little bit less. Check it in about 5 and see how it's going. If you gotta rotate them, rotate them. A little bit, we're about at 450 degrees to 500 degrees right now. That's exactly where we want to be. We're going to check it. It's been about 5.5 minutes. I'm opening up the grill to check it out. That's the first one on. Not quite done yet. First one on, or second one done on. Not quite done yet. We need a few more minutes. Close it up. Maintain the heat, right? We're going to check back in about 3 minutes. So we'll be at 8 total. Go. All right, here we are at the 8-minute mark. Oh man, looking pretty good. This one's starting to get a little too toasty on the bottom, but that's okay. We can save that. This one's looking pretty good on the bottom. So that's it. We're gonna pull off our all cheese one. Okay. We're gonna pull off our fancy pepperoni. And the other two in the middle, we might let go for just a titch longer. Not quite there yet, but that's it, guys. Now, as you can see, mine was a little bit burned on the bottom. That's got pretty direct heat, pretty hot heat. You can avoid that actually if you turn the middle burner off when you do this, but these look pretty tasty. Trick is, don't cut into them yet. Let them sit for about 5 minutes to cool a little bit. The cheese comes together a little bit. Then cut them and eat them. I think you'll enjoy them. All right, guys, hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time. Alright guys, here I am back at my grill again. I want to show you an alternate way that you can set your grill up too if you've got 3 burners like I do. So right now I've got my left burner on my high, I got my right burner on high, and I've got my middle burner on the lowest possible setting. And for a few minutes I even had it off, but I have it on the lowest setting now. And right now you see I'm maintaining about 400 to 450 on my grill. That 500 mark's a little bit better for pizza because it grills faster, but it also, if the bottom's too hot and the direct heat is too much, you can burn the crust in the bottom. We started to see that a little bit on our pizzas that came out, but with this setup, having the middle ones on super low and the 2 on the right being on high, check this out. I've got some breadsticks going right now that are on the middle ones. The cheese is melting great, it's cooking nicely, flames are on the left, and flames are on the right, but on the middle one I've got real low flame going on. Okay, and so this is gonna crust up, bake up nicely. It's got about 5 more minutes on these, and I'm ready breadsticks too. All right, these are the breadsticks that I just pulled off the grill. Look how they're just starting to get golden and bubbly at the top. Love it that way. This is gonna be hot, but I kind of want to show you what's going on at the bottom too. Look at that, perfect on the bottom, grill marks and everything. Okay, that's what we want it to be like. That's what happened when we kept it on low in the center, high on the sides. Keep the temperature warm enough to bake, but low enough not to scorch the bread. There you go. I hope you enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy this.